Good evening, everyone. We're going to be covering common problems we see in the shop. I am an ASC Certified diesel technician working at a shop here in Dallas, Texas. I'm going to be sharing with you some items that we see common in the shop. Let me just ensure that everything's online correctly. Let me know where everyone's watching from. I know we have a late broadcast today, had a pretty long day today, but I can assure you it's going to be packed with information, so we'll get right to it. If you are wanting to highlight your comments, let me know. If you're in the DFW area, check us out, 4140 Langdon Rd, Dallas, Texas, 75241, exit 272 on Interstate 20. What's up, Jersey in the house? I want to apologize to one of the viewers that made a comment on the channel on one of our broadcasts just the other day. I believe it was, I'm not sure, we've been doing a lot of broadcasts, but it was the other day, and I want to apologize for not recognizing it was someone that had stopped by, gave us a great review. So I was excited that we were able to meet and exceed your expectations. Shout out to Jersey. Jersey's in the house. Edward, there you are. Edward West. Thank you. Welcome back. Yep, that's who I'm talking about. Thanks for being a viewer and contribute to our channel. We got a late broadcast today, but I can assure you it's gonna be packed with information. If you got any questions, let me know. Have I did an oil change on a 22 Peterbilt? What kind of engine it has in it? But yes, we can handle that. We offer express service. Express expert service is the reason why I want to highlight expert is because express and expert doesn't always go together, but we ensure that we give you the top of the line service available in our industry, and we do our best to live up to our reputation. Thank you, everybody that's joining us this evening. If you want to get your comment highlighted, let me know. Brian, we're making it down there. Past couple of years has been kind of tough, so it's hard to expand in a depressed market when it comes to freight and all that, freight paying. But we're seeing a turnaround. We've already seen a turnaround, which a lot of information that I've shared yesterday about the retailers and their forecast. So CTB Transportation says he's got an MX Pet car. Yes, sir. We also have software. We do all the troubleshooting for any issues that you have with that particular truck. Give us a shout, 972-225-3017. We're located just off of Interstate 20 and 472. Go south on 472 and you go west on Langdon Road. We're just behind Premier Truck Group. Shout out to everybody that's joining us this evening. I know it's a late broadcast, but we're going to get started. We'll start sharing this information with everyone. Common issues that we're seeing in the shop. I'm going to give you a couple of, we're going to start with this particular problem is ABS. I know everyone loves that ABS light. They love seeing that ABS light. I'm going to make some merch. Let me know if you guys would buy. No one's buying our merch right now. With the hats is the only thing that I have. I'm trying to get some better merch out there, but first is content, and first is making sure everybody that's coming in the shop is getting taken care of. So this particular job is an ABS problem. I'm pulling up the photos now so that we can discuss it. So as I mentioned before, it's very important to, anytime you're working on any unit. In this particular case, we're working on an ABS system, and this software available by Bendix ACOM It's pro diagnostic software. It's very useful. It's very user friendly. So this is the shorts that I have been releasing about the best software to use, and I'm recommending whatever manufacturer or whatever product you're working on. I would just definitely go with manufacturer, just because they have all the information that you're going to need. So in this particular case, we have an ABS issue, and you can see how we can see wheel speeds. And if you're not familiar how ABS works, is the system's going to be monitoring the wheel speeds at all times. So if it detects a wheel that's not rotating when brakes are being applied, it's gonna let the brakes off for that area, so you won't have you won't have any brakes locked up. So the way that works is you have a sensor that's on the housing of where your brakes and your axle assembly is, and there's a sensor that basically just reads this particular tone wheel. So this tone wheel, as you can see, has small grooves in it, and mostly how sensors work is they're detecting it's got a magnetic end on the sensor, and every time that it crosses over a section of this tone wheel that is missing a section of metal, the signal changes because there's a magnet at the end of the sensor. So that's how these sensors work, if you didn't understand how those work. So as you can see, this sensor could have been installed incorrectly, but it's rubbing up against the tone wheel. Now, where these tone wheels are located, they're not very visible. So this is what can make this type of job a little bit more challenging to isolate and find exactly what's going on, because just these can get filled up with a bunch of road grime. So this is the location of the tone wheel. This is the location of the tone wheel. It goes right behind the hub assembly. Bear with me, I'm moving chat box around, making sure I got chat still visible for me. So this is where this tone wheel goes, as I mentioned, and as you can see, the old one was worn. It had some imperfections on it. Now, since these sensors are, they're not like super delicate, but either the reinstall on all this or the sensor was moved. Somebody could have messed with it. It's not very accessible, but this would be the repair for that. Well, this is what this particular code led us down to. We have very detailed troubleshooting procedures, and we invest in these softwares, which is very useful whenever you're dealing with any type of equipment, so that it can save you some time and it saves the customer some time. Everyone gets it benefits from being able to use the right equipment when it comes to any job that you're doing. So this is a common problem, ABS, and they come in different form. ABS faults comes in different forms. It could be a tone wheel, could be a harness, could be the wiring harness to that particular sensor, or whatever it could be. Could be a leak in ABS valve. Let me make sure I'm not skipping over any images on that job. Okay, as I mentioned, this is the dashboard. So if we don't want to drive this truck around with two technicians monitoring the computer, then we would raise the axle and rotate the axle and physically see real-time data that's reading correctly to the computer to make sure that everything's working correctly, so you shouldn't have any faults. And this is another reason, if you guys follow us on the channel and you see my other shorts, this is what I'm talking about when it comes to real-time data. If you're doing like a wireless connection, you won't get real-time data. You'll have lag. You'll have lag on the system. Appreciate everybody that's joined us this evening. If you got any questions, make sure to hit us up. Hit us up in super chat. Don't be shy. Appreciate everybody's work. That's everybody's hard work. I know that it's a late evening. Some people drive in evenings. Some people drive at night. Today's just been a long day, and I was planning to broadcast a little bit earlier today, but time just goes by. Time just flies by. So shout out to everybody that's still online with us. I know that a lot of drivers are driving at night because it's a lot safer. It's a super safe to drive. It's a bit safer, I should say. There's still a lot of craziness. Every time that if on Saturdays, if you're going somewhere and you wake up early, you can always see the damage on the guardrails from all the drunk drivers from the night before. Shout out to everybody that's joined us this evening. Make sure to hit us up. Make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel if you're not subscribed to our channel. If you got questions about your truck, hit us up in the super chat if you want your comment highlighted. So this next job is on a MP8 Mac dump. So basically, EGR cooler was clogged up. The DPF filter needed to be replaced. And let me see. I'm trying to get these images in order. I have a lot of images of the job being wrapped up already. So this is a common issue. Of course, it's on the after treatment system. If you are in the market for getting your truck worked on and you have after treatment systems and you're having issues with maybe getting it repaired correctly, give us a shout. We work on this type of equipment. So I'm about to share some images with you. And this fault here happens, as I mentioned. It's common because, let's go ahead and go over to the share screen. So this is an MP8. MP8s are in Mack trucks. They're very similar to Volvos. There's not too much of a difference. As you can see, there's a turbo actuator. This is a photo of the turbo after the EGR cooler has been cleaned, and then on the left side is the ATS system, after treatment system. So this truck came in with some particular NOx codes. NOx codes can vary. It could be, you want to ensure that you have the right troubleshooting software, as I reiterated all the time and repeat it, because the softwares that you use to troubleshoot this type of work is very useful. So here are the components removed that we had to clean. I'm searching for some clean images of the EGR cooler after it was cleaned. So a lot of times you're going to see this type of repair come up, 400,000 miles. This is the DPF filter remove. This is a different style filter than the one box system. Every manufacturer is going to have their own style of ATS, after treatment system, but they all are similar and they are all doing the same thing. And maintenance is just a little bit different. Parts are different. Troubleshooting is pretty much the same. If when this truck came in, it had a NOx and some other after treatment faults, and it was a long list of fault codes. It was probably about 4 pages long, but I'll just share with you one of the main ones. And what happens is when you have NOx bank sensors like this come up active, and other NOx that are active as well, as you can see, high counts here. This is PTT software. This is what we use for Volvos and Macs. So on the left side, it's basically the information that you use for, it's just labeling on the unit control, whatever computer it's reading off of is the ACM. A lot of different a lot of faults on the after treatment systems. As you can see, 1200 faults. That's very high count. Now maybe we could have got this repaired. To me, it could have been maintenance, maybe a little bit of maintenance when it comes to getting this filter replaced and not doing a lot of idling. I know that it's very challenging to do this type of construction work and not be able to idle this truck. But as you can see on the on the engine control module, EMS, different manufacturers have their own names, kind of like just. So as you can see here, it's EGR related, after treatment related. It's when it gets down to these NOx's, this is when it starts reducing power. Now what we would look at in this particular case to see is if we have any kind of engine problems going on, because if we have any kind of engine like faulty injector or power complaints, that's going to be producing excessive soot. But in this particular case, we have a lot of soot built up on the EGR cooler, which is this item here. Well, the turbo was not replaced. The turbo had to be it just removed to be able to access the EGR cooler. Let me get to that image. The EGR cooler here. See, you'd have to remove this turbo to get to that EGR cooler. So the frame is in the way. So this is a lengthy job. If you have an MP8 or if you have a D13 Volvo, I would recommend as a technician as well. I am ASC certified as a medium and light duty diesel engine technician. I'm certified as well. So it's not just me being biased as me that I work on trucks, but I just follow the data. And 400,000 miles is when the DPF filter is going to need to be replaced. And I would go ahead and plan to get this EGR cooler cleaned as well. Now, this particular turbo has this actuator on it, which, as I mentioned before, I'm not a big fan of these actuators, and I'm going to tell you why. These actuators, they're designed to help with emissions, not only help with emissions, but to help with turbo lag and get the most power out of the truck whenever you're at lower end. But what, as you can see, is bolted directly on the turbo. So, and the only protection that it has, as you can see, this steel braided line here with the banjo bolt here. This is a banjo bolt, which means it's a hollow bolt. And this particular line here is a steel braided line. What this is, and you can see this other steel braided line with a banjo bolt. This is coolant. This is engine coolant running through this actuator, this electronic actuator that's bolted on this very hot turbo. And this is what's supposed to keep this actuator safe. Now, this turbo actuator could go out. I mean, they are something that goes out pretty often, and this is why, because it's an electrical component that's bolted on to a very, very hot component, one of the hottest components. So this is why we have a lot of failures on these particular setups. But this is some really nice equipment. I just wanted to share with you. This so that you can get an idea of what you're looking for if you have this particular model that's similar. This would be in line with anything that's modern that has an after treatment system. Let me just ensure that I'm not skipping over any images. Unfortunately, this particular truck had to do a tank as well. So the tank had to be replaced. These tanks can get faulty as well. And since he was in the house, went ahead and did valve adjustments. So this is overhead valve adjustments here. This is completing that particular job. On this job, you'd have to remove the internal doghouse, which causes for a little bit more labor. Anytime you're working on these particular engines, you want to be super clean. So this is a rear housing section similar to the D13 Volvo, as I mentioned. So if you're familiar with that, what I find interesting is this updated rail system here. They're running, it's kind of like a hybrid, high pressure and regular system, fuel system. But these particular housings leak often. This is would fall in line with regular common repairs that we see. This is the old DEF tank that was acting up, and then us resealing everything back up, getting everything nice and tight. Now, when we do this type of work, this was beforehand when we had to get the EGR cooler out. As you can see, there's a lot of lines, there's a lot of banjo bolts. And the banjo bolts are hollow bolts. You can see a tip of the steel braid coolant lines that this one runs to the actuator, and that particular EGR cooler just kind of just stabs in here. It jams into this housing, this bore. So whenever you remove these, you have to replace a lot of gaskets, a lot of bolts that maybe are C's that don't come off, clamps. So some of these parts we reuse as much as we can, but you're not supposed to reuse these banjo bolt washers because they're crush washers, and the crush washers are one-time use. You could try to reuse them, but if you have a coolant leak, it's definitely going to be a pain in the ass. So of course, after our repairs, we do parameter resets and we do road test and ensuring that the repairs are correct, and that we also run in-house tests. So this is another reason why it's important to have the software on the particular equipment that you're working on, or selecting a quality shop that can help you out. And if you're in the DFW area and you're passing through Dallas, check us out. We're off of Interstate 20 off of 472. Go south on 472. Appreciate everybody that's joined us this evening. It's a late broadcast. It's been a very tough day. Appreciate everybody that's joined us. Let's see what chat is talking about. Chat, what you talking about? Edward West, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your patriotism. Brian said he'd buy our shirt. I'm going to get some more merch out, man. I'm going to get a shirt with the ABS light. I want to do a shirt with the ABS. Fault code only comes on when heavy rain. Sounds like an electrical problem. Definite. What type of fault code what is it? If you can get it, the description of the fault code. Excuse me, I'm not going to be drinking in your guys' ear. If you can get a description of the fault code, what I would recommend you do, good comment. I would recommend that you troubleshoot that circuit, which means if it is like if whatever the fault code is reading, don't replace the part. Troubleshoot the connections, check the connections, check all that. See if there's any electrical repairs. Thank you for your question. Michael says, hi, Mike from FedEx Vehicle Maintenance in New York. Running Cascadias with Detroit's. A lot of CAN bus issues here. Do you see them a lot? We do see a lot of CAN bus issues. J1938, are you talking about that particular failure? J1938. We discussed this on a previous broadcast about we had a viewer that replaced a temperature sensor on his differential, and he was having issues. And it was in line with what we were discussing that evening, because as I mentioned, we're just discussing common issues, and the issues that I was discussing that evening was in line with electrical connections, corrosion in your connectors, repairs not done correctly, to not using crimping correctly, or heat shrink. And heat shrink connectors is what you need, because of course whenever it is raining, not everything is completely sealed from the rain, so items do get wet. Good question, good comment. Greetings, dirty guys from California. Frankie, what's up, man? I want to get out there in California, man. We do want to expand out in Houston. If anyone is interested and has experience running the shop, give me a shout. I'm looking to expand in that area, but I need some hands out there. I need some men. I need some quality men out there that take pride in their work, not just some guys that, you know, stay dirty. I mean, dirty, it's hard to stay clean. I know your hands, your fingernails, but professional diesel technicians are different from just a diesel technician that just doesn't take their job as a professional. And that's in any trade. You can tell a professional from a mile away in whatever trade that they're in. How does the engine brake work? I've noticed smoke from my exhaust when the engine... Well, so the engine brake is basically just disrupting the exhaust escaping from the engine. It's holding it longer. It's holding these cylinders open longer, and it creates a back pressure. If you're seeing white smoke is going to be an indication of oil. If you're seeing it during jake braking, and I'm glad that you brought this up, because someone brought this up just the other on another broadcast, and they were more concerned that it was injector cups. But if it's smoke coming out and you're using during the jake braking, it's possible that it could be the seals leaking on the valves, on the valve seals, on the valve stems, on the head. So when you're using jake brakes, you're putting more pressure on those particular seals, which can cause more of an oil leak. So it's possible that the smoke is being caused and increased by using jake brakes. But jake brakes just disrupt the engine completing its cycle and causing back pressure and being able to slow the engine down. I lost some power on my Cummins engine, and it sounded really breezy in the cabin when I hit the gas pedal. Okay, so if you're losing power and it sounds breezy, which means probably would mean, what you mean is by you hear like air escaping from something, that sounds like a boost leak to me. And the way that boost leaks can rob you from pressure is because a boost is basically boosted pressure being induced into the intake very rapidly, very high combustion, so that basically whenever it does, you do have a combustion process, or you complete the combustion process, you have all the air that's needed, because all that's needed is a lot of air and a lot of fuel. So if you hear that breezy whistling noise, then it's possible it's going to be a exhaust leak or a boost leak, one of the two. Boost, more than likely boost leak, but it could be on the exhaust side as well, and that pressure escaping on the hot side is not going to allow you to build boost pressure. So check both of those out. Check for boost pressure leaks, checks for exhaust leaks coming leading to up to that turbo. Great question, great comment. Appreciate everybody that's joining us this evening. I know some of you guys are out there driving this evening, and I just want to say thank everybody, all the drivers, all the technicians that are working hard to make a comeback. One of the strongest historical comebacks that we're going to make in the trucking industry. Mark my word, it's going to be strong and it's going to go for a long time. The things that happen in these past couple years when it comes to just the difference and the adaptation of trade and just everything, it's going to be, I mentioned it to you in some of my other broadcasts, that the center of the world, the United States, is going to be there again. So the next project, this is a PTO. PTOs are being used for various factors or various applications. PTOs can be used to, if you remember seeing my video about that Ford, I had a Ford heavy duty that they put, it was the same size engine, a 6.7 liter that they put in the automobile truck. They put it in a heavy duty truck, tree truck, with a dump on it. So that, can you imagine the strain that those engines are going on? I mean, these are class 8 trucks, large vehicles, not and I'm not downing a 350 or a 250. That's a large truck as well, so that's why you have a big engine. But what I'm saying is the same size engine that they're putting in a F250 to 6.7 liter was in a larger application, and that application also was hauling tree, cutting trees down. Is a tree trimming company, very heavy, so it didn't last. So I'm gonna circle back to your guys' comments, but the next item I want to talk about is this PTO. So this particular power takeoff is accessible on the floorboard. We had to get in the driver inside the cab and remove this cover to access this PTO. So the PTO is this particular PTO here. You can see it here, and it's mated with a pump, and this is how most applications are. This is the hydraulic pump, and then that pump is driving a cylinder to lift and drop. So this particular PTO actually broke. These are the drive gear on the PTO. So this broke. Luckily, it didn't damage the transmission completely. And this is the applications that they're in. Big trucks, big dumps, big dump trucks. You can see the size of these monsters. When you look at the front wheels, look at the size of the front wheels. And these are MP8s. You can see MP8 in there. But this is severe duty, is what Detroit calls their line. But this is severe duty. So the truck that I mentioned just prior, that I think it was an F450 with a 6.7 liter. These are 13 liters. And look how massive these tires are. Look how massive this chassis is. And you try to put a 6.7 liter, half the size, and it's not the same. The tree hauler or the tree company truck was not the same size, but it was not small. I mean, it wasn't the size of a 250 or a 350. I feel like it was super overloaded. And it was overloaded. But this is the PTO that was replaced. So this is a top-mounted PTO on an automated system. Now this one broke. Probably got engaged to it quickly. Most of the time, if you're running a PTO, you're going to have a clutch. So if you're new to the game, push that clutch in and softly let the clutch loose so that PTO can engage slowly. In this particular case, if you are able to just switch it, wait till the transmission gets to an idle, a slower RPM, and try to engage it, especially if it's heavy. Because, and I'm not speculating, but I'm just saying in a scenario that you have your RPMs high and you're in a dump truck that's loaded heavy. As I mentioned, these trucks can load very heavy. So whenever you're engaging that PTO too quickly, then you're risking the chances of a breakage in the gear, in the drive gear like this. And these PTOs aren't cheap. You'll be surprised how much these PTOs are. They run about the same price as a car transmission, as a vehicle transmission. They're very high. Very high because they're built strong. But as you can see, we're recording everything, torque specs, everything's installed correctly. Make sure everything's done to specs. These are the size of the monsters. If you're dealing with any kind of equipment, if you have this type of equipment and you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and you're looking for a solid shop, if you're looking for some professionals that take pride in their work, that do not skip any steps, and will keep you informed on everything that's going on with your vehicle and give you recommendations to avoid breakdowns. Before I move on to the next item, I just wanted to zoom in and let you know, give you a better view. You see, this is the internal gear on the top part of the transmission. So this is where the PTO will be bolted, and then the PTO will engage itself either by a air switch. Most of the time it's by a switch pushed by air. The air would engage that drive gear that's mated to this pump, and that's how you get your power. But being very cautious about the application and how you're using it properly is going to ensure that you don't have any breaks. Looks like we got a freeze. So yeah, that's PTOs are in different applications. I didn't have a freeze the other day, but we got a freeze this evening. We're going to get back online. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but we're going to get through it like always. You know what? We're made to fix problems. We're made to fix problems. I would just say, men are made to fix problems. That's what we do. Problems all day, every day. Am I back on? Here we go. See that? No sweat. Adjusting the focus. Let's bring chat back up. So if you got PTOs and you're in the DFW area, you're running dump trucks, any kind of construction equipment, you're looking for a solid shop, give us a shout. 972-225-3017. We are just located off of Interstate 20, off of 472, off of Langdon Road. You go south on Langdon Road. My apologies, Bonneview. Go south on Bonneview Road, and you will go westbound on Langdon. We're just south of Premier Truck Group and the TA and the new Pilot in that area. Check us out. Let me get back to some of these questions. They stacked up a little bit. We got a comment here that says, thanks for all the videos. Ex-military as well, trying the owner-operator thing. Good luck. Thanks for your comment, and welcome to the industry. Now, the mindset of a military of the military is a strong mindset, and that's basically what you're going to be needing to get through. You're entering in a tough time, but at the same time, I entered the market at a very tough time. There was the housing crash in 2008. Prior to 2008, it was basically everyone going crazy, not wanting to move in. There's some good things happening in the market right now. There's some equilibrium that needs to be met, which is demand. There need to be some balance that we need to come through when it comes to the amount of volume, but a lot of the indicators are showing some strong numbers, especially when it comes to consumer demand. Consumer spending, to be exact. Consumer spending shows to be very strong. Construction on houses shows to be very strong. There's a lot of people buying houses, especially with the Gen X generation that's being forced out into the real world and being forced to participate in the economy if they haven't already. What's up, Josh, out there in California? But yeah, welcome to the industry, ex-military. There's nothing wrong. I spend a lot of my time, I spend my young ages in the military. I would say if you don't have much going on, if you're not learning a trade, or if you want to learn some discipline, jump into the military, serve a few years, 4 or 5 years, grab a trade, get in line with a trade that you can use when you get out. Now you have discipline on waking up early, keeping up with what you're supposed to be keeping up with. There's a lot of things that you're gonna learn, and one thing that I feel like is very useful that is not enough in our society is breaking. And I can understand there's a lot of differences nowadays, especially with separated homes and whatnot, but there's not enough men that don't get breaking away from their mothers at a young age. They're too close to their mothers at a very all the way until adulthood. And if you are that type of person, okay, I'm not against that, but I just have read literature. African tribes used to remove their boys away from their mothers at 13 years old, and it would be like a traditional type of ceremony that they would do, and they would just kind of bring the boy into manhood and breaking him away from his mother. And in some cases they wouldn't see their mothers until they're actually become adults. So I feel like that's a very strong process. That's a very strong process for and I can only speak as a man because I'm a man, but that's just a strong process. And I'm not downing anybody's circumstances. Everybody's circumstances are different. So if I'm just bringing that up is as because a lot of people I've noticed had to mature in the military, and that is a kind of like I wouldn't say it's perfect, but I would say it's something, because it's been very diluted. Any kind of ritual, traditional transformation is gone in our society. What's up? Can you do an in-depth why deleting a D13 is a bad idea? My buddy thinks I should, but I don't ever have after treatment issues, and I would like to know what to tell him as why not to delete. Well, first of all, it's your truck. I mean, Zenex Trucking. But shout out to Zenex Trucking. Good question. He's asking me why he shouldn't delete, and I can reiterate this many times, and it might become even more short form over and over. But what is not safe about a elimination or any modification on your after treatment system, especially if you're not having issues, is that you're risking the chances of derating the motor, shorting the longevity of your motor. You're really gambling, because these are hack deletes. The correct parts and the correct software and equipment needed to produce a eliminated system or a modified system that would not damage your engine long term is not available. So what they're doing is creating hack deletes, doing different types of makeshift things to work on your engine. And a lot of times these newer model engines are exactly designed to work with an EGR, because I mentioned this in my last broadcast, is a EGR would increase the temperature of the cylinder so that the ECM is pulling fuel back and compensating, and still be able to create power and not create any excessive soot So once you deal with an elimination or a modification or a hack delete, then you're going to be dumping more fuel, because most of these hack deletes are trying to give you more horsepower by dumping more fuel, which is the easiest way. But I wouldn't suggest doing it. It is your truck, but the best practice that I would suggest doing is just following the maintenance your maintenance intervals. At 400,000 miles, 450,000 miles, replace that DPF filter. The EGR cooler that I just showed, go ahead and get that cleaned up at that mileage as well, and you should be good. Everything should be good, especially if you don't have check engine lights. Keep your oil change intervals very not, you don't have to keep them too tight, but if you're going extended intervals, make sure to do oil analysis. Great question. What are the common issues that you would say an owner operator can try to fix, and what are some items they should leave alone and bring it to a shop? I would say whatever you feel like you can do, okay, but not a lot of times when the items that I'm showing you are big heavy line items. Definitely don't try those on your own. It's dangerous. You're dealing with heavy equipment. You're by yourself. You're not on a shop. You're not in a shop. You will quickly see that having a nice setup, a concrete floor, a concrete smooth shop, having access to get up under the truck easily, being able to get up and in and out of that truck, up and under the truck. You can see that you're gonna notice quickly that's challenging. And if you're able to do it on your own, then go ahead and try, but you're going to be driving a lot of hours and then trying to work on your truck. I would definitely work on planning to spend on maintenance and plan ahead. Your oil changes, your DPF filters, your DEF filters, your belts, your air filters. Plan ahead, get those items done with the shop. Whenever we do service at our shop, shout out to anybody that's come to our shop and had service. I hope we were able to meet or exceed your expectations. At our shop, we will print out a recommendation, just like any other place that gets service. We'll print out a recommendation for your particular truck. We'll also do a free digital inspection that we will send to you, and you can see the photos yourself and kind of see what actually needs to be done, so that you're not jumping on something that might not be critical at the moment, but something else could be better addressed. Maintenance is going to be one of your main expenses when it comes to running a truck, along with fuel. But maintenance and fuel is going to be up there, because on that line item as well, in maintenance, is going to be tires. Tires is one of the most expensive things that you're going to end up buying for that truck. So maintaining that truck, alignment, tires, balance, all this maintenance is going to end up being not something that you can handle on your own. It's definitely going to have to start outsourcing it. And I'm not just talking. I look at data. This is analyzed data. If you look at 5 of the publicly traded trucking companies in the United States, Hunt, Knight, all these big companies, they have to release and display that their financials, and in those financials you can see a lot of their expenses is just going to go to maintenance and fuel, payroll. That's all their maintenance is going. Everything, those are the big items: fuel, maintenance, payroll. If you're an owner operator, then you only got fuel, payroll, and probably insurance. And with all these accidents being claimed, everybody wants to do an insurance claim. When you say keep up with PM, what is the main things that you're referring to? Okay, look, whatever model truck that you have or whatever engine that you have, look up maintenance for my DD15. You're going to find information. You can pull this from the manufacturer's website themselves, and those maintenance intervals you're going to be your baseline. I can share with you a few things. You can look at a few of my videos as well, but the quick breakdown is going to be 150,000 miles. You're going to be doing replacing your DEF filter. If you have an after treatment system around 200,000 miles, I would do coolant. Get some coolant strips so you can test those things. 250,000 miles, check your belts, make sure your tensioners, all those are still going well. Change out that air filter. As the miles go more and more, you're going to end up doing just a little bit more maintenance, but it's not going to be major. What's going to be major is if you skip it all. Yearly, you want to change out that air dryer. The air dryer is something that gets overlooked very often. And what happens is you can say, hey, you know what? It's just an air dryer. It's just an air dryer filter. What happens is that air dryer filter becomes stuck to the housing, the air filter, the air dryer assembly, and then you have to replace the whole thing. So, and not to mention, not only that, but overlooking the air dryer will allow a lot of condensation to build up in your air system, and your air system runs everything in the semi truck. It's not like a automobile where they have hydraulics and electric. A lot of these things, for example, the PTO may not get a lot of damage by a lot of water, but when you have switches that are in the dash, when you have sensors that get clogged up, when you have valves, those are the types of things that can give you problems later on down the road. Good question. Thank you. David says, I got a D13. How do I check if injectors are bad? I don't have a good way to see if head returns in has air. Air starts after usually a hand pump, and it smokes after I start it. I mean, it's possible you could have an injector. It's possible you could have it's losing its prime. So there's definitely troubleshooting procedures whenever you're trying to isolate a fuel system problem on a D13. You don't want to replace parts that's still good. It's hard to just condemn parts. So I would definitely recommend you get that troubleshot by someone that's familiar with the D13 fuel system. So in addition to your question, you said without priming the hand, it has a hard start. The truck has new injector cups. Thank you for sharing previous repairs. It's very useful. So it wouldn't be injector O-rings because the cups have been replaced, and the cups should have been O-rings on the injector should have been replaced. Did it happen? Did you do the job for the cups because of the priming issue, and did you start having the hard start after the repair? Why did you replace the cups in the first place? And the reason why I ask is if the problem happened after the repair, it's possible that something like those crutch washers that I mentioned, those are used on the D13 Volvo fuel system, could allow you to lose your prime. Because if you didn't have issues with the injector beforehand, before the repair, the cup repair, and everything looked good, if the mechanic or the technician inspected the injectors and everything looked to be reusable and there wasn't any faults, then it's possible, if it happened after the repair, that something maybe could have happened with the repair, or maybe an injector gave up on you. And there's tests that you can do, David. Thank you for that question. Frankie, where are you from? What are you talking about? Running the shop? What's your experience? Where are you from? And I don't mean it in a rude way. I mean it in an interesting way. If you're able to manage, if you're able to overlook, or you were just do you have any tips for learning more about diagnostics and how to troubleshoot? I'm 19. I've been wrenching for 2 years and trying to become the best mechanic I can be. Do you have any recommendations? You know what? I want to give you props for being able to have that desire and push yourself. I enjoy mechanics. I enjoy the way things work, learning how things work ever since I was young. I've been that way. I've been working on dirt bikes. I replaced a starter on a Ford inline 6 before I had my driver's license. So I was working on motors and understood how they work before I could drive, which would be useful for a lot of people if that was the case nowadays. But what I would recommend is get a hold as much literature as possible. And as boring as it sounds, and as boring as it's gonna be, literature is going to give you so much information that it's just, it's understood. That's gonna be. There's no shortcuts. My spare time and a lot of my work hours are gonna be in manuals. My work hours are in manuals. Where to learn more about techs that goes into making a diesel engine, expanding my thoughts process, and working on trucks. Big boy, send me your email address, or hit me up at info@tatexpress.com. I may have something that I can refer to you. From ATL, shout out there in ATL. I heard that you guys got some deferment from the Baltimore incident, the Baltimore bridge. I know that Baltimore bridge didn't affect too much freight. But hey, make sure to hit that like button and share this video. What I don't understand about the Baltimore bridge accident is why didn't they put bollards? New bridges have bollards so they can't run into the bridge like that. But I guess it wasn't cost effective to put bollards in prior to an accident happening. So then it doesn't make sense. That now it's going to cost even, I don't know how many multiplied amount it's going to cost. What does PTO stand for? Thank you for answering that, Frankie. Power takeoff. The best PTO I've ever seen so far is only produced for fire trucks. Those things are indestructible. You know what, Frankie? That PTO that I shared with you, that PTO repair that I shared with you earlier, man, it was on back order from mostly a lot of places. And not only that, is what was surprising, it was on back order from one of the main people that usually have it. So those things with the construction that's going on, it's a lot of demand for this equipment. If you're in the DFW area and you're in construction and you're looking for a solid shop, we do heavy line work. We got lifts. A lot of the shops that they won't have in our area, and I don't want to boast about these lifts, but the reason why I bring these lifts up is because it streamlines the work process. We can get the things done. The techs aren't all too wore out, but from being on the ground and getting back up, and you're worried about sloppy work. This is the truck is being lifted up. It helps us get a better undercarriage view of what's going on. That's why DOT rather do an inspection on your vehicle in a pit, and a lot of people like doing pits. Now, the only thing about pits is once you have a pit, then that bay is dedicated to a pit. The good thing about having a lift is the lift's going to be able to still let you work on that vehicle. In a pit, you can't put a transmission jack, elevated transmission jack to get the transmission off. So if you're in the DFW area, give us a shout, give us a try. 972-225-3017. Francisco at our office, or Brandon will give you a hand, and our technicians are all up to date. We stay all connected together. We communicate on a daily basis about all the jobs that are going through the shop so that everyone can give their insight and we built this type of culture because we take our work, we're professional in our work. We take pride in our work. Whenever it's kind of like cutting a lawn, you want to do it nicely. If you're a truck driver, you want to get a job done professionally, you want to get it done, and it just takes a little bit of patience to be able to want to do stuff like that. But as you mentioned, I mean, as you can see in the comments, there are people out there that are passionate about this, like we are. I mean, honestly, I didn't have the energy to do this broadcast this evening, but just starting to talk about all these different jobs gets me hyped up. All right, so the next thing I'm going to be talking about is I'm going to give you an update on a light duty, and I'll circle back to your comments. Hit me up on Super Chat. Don't be shy. The Super Chat is going to highlight your comments. So this next project that I want to discuss is another common problem. Is a transmission and clutch replacement. This is the transmission that went out that I shared with you on another broadcast, that the customer complaint was that they were just driving and they heard a popping noise. I shared with you some images of the metal flying out, the metal that was found in the oil. So this is an image of the rear main seal. This is the flywheel removed, and this is the rear crankshaft seal that I mentioned to you that needs to be replaced anytime you're doing a clutch replacement or a transmission replacement, due to the fact that clutch is going to allow that transmission to grab a lot harder. So the transformation of torque from that crank over to that transmission is going to cause this to flex, and is going to have a high probability of leaking. So if you're there, get it done. Let me share some more photos. So this is the installation tool. Make sure to use the installation tool. Sorry, I didn't cover that as well. Use the correct procedures and installation tools, because installation tools are going to ensure that the seal is installed correctly. It is possible that if you just try to makeshift a seal and hammer it in there, that is not going to seal correctly, and you're not going to be able to tell because it's sitting there and you can just see it. It's not going to leak. I mean, the engine's not on. There's no force on it. It's not going to leak. So this is the end results of the seal completely installed. And what's important about these installers, and what's important about all tools and using the correct tools and not trying to go with cheap tools or in the incorrect tools, is not only does it make the job easier, but it guarantees that you get the job done the right time and there's no comebacks. So that's the seal after the installation. Here's the transmission. Shout out to our local rebuilder. Get that done nicely. Very professionals out there. As I mentioned, this is a automated system. The only thing that's electric on it, or it's automated, is going to be the top end, which is the gear shifter. Most of the whole transmission is the same. Appreciate everybody that's joined us this evening. So this particular job is getting wrapped up. Let me make sure I don't have anything else on that. Got the seal. I showed you the seal. Okay, here's the flywheel. This is why it's important. As I mentioned, this flywheel's turned. He's got the guide studs here. The guide studs to install the install the clutch. We marked the bolts. You see how everything's marked, everything's recorded to ensure that the torque is done, nothing skipped. These large jobs like this, there's no room for error, guys. So to take away the pressure, we follow procedures. All right, easy as that. Less thinking. There's less thinking to do when you follow procedures. I don't have to think about, oh, did I do that? No, well, let me follow the procedures. I recorded it. Look at that. And if you're doing this in high volume, it's very critical because you don't want to overlook things. You don't want to overlook things. We work decent hours. We don't know. I don't feel like we're overworking. We were working more hours than we used to, but what I'm getting to is that technicians can get tired. So mistakes can happen, but we want to try to mitigate them as much as possible. This is the as of the transmission installed, shiny as can be. So that was a follow-up video on a medium duty that was in our shop. If you are having a medium duty, if you deal with light duty or medium duty, we also service those trucks as well. And we also service RVs. So if you're looking for a fast, express, professional shop, give us a shout, 972-225-3017. We'll be more than happy to schedule you in and give you the best service that you've experienced in this industry. And we will live up to those words. We'll live up to them. Okay, what else have we got? Let me get on back to these comments, and then I might need to go lay it down, man, because we got another. We got to get back to it again tomorrow. But I'm still with you. They don't handle the high RPMs very much. I can tell you that. What is it? What do you mean? Oh, you talking about PTOs? PTO stands for, again, power takeoff. Oh yeah, okay. So you gave me about the PTO on the fire trucks. Yeah, well, fire trucks, man, those suckers are running some massive pumps, and some of those guys do have priority over some of that stuff. My truck coming up to 1 million miles. Should I looked into something like an engine swap or just another used truck? How many miles? Okay. Brian, have you done an oil sample? What's your budget look like? Do you want to get into another truck? Do you feel like you want another truck? Or if everything's nice and good and you've done work on that and you've done work on the chassis as well, and the chassis is maintained as well, and I mean, it's possible it would be worth doing an engine swap or rebuilding the one that you have. D12 auto transmission. I'm sorry, DT12 automated transmission. What is the main cause of failure and how to avoid them? Well, keeping up with maintenance is what I always mention. Keeping up with your oil change intervals. And what is very good about the DT12 is that it's a very intelligent transmission, so that you're able to use the software to troubleshoot a lot of issues if you have any issues. It's a very solid transmission. If you are having problems with it, make sure to take it to somebody that has the software, the Triple DL will get you the troubleshooting steps. If you're having any kind of codes that pop up, that would help that out as well. JVC, what's up? Yes, sir. It was an Eaton. It was not a. No, actually, it was an Allison Humberto Torres. It was a Eaton, but yeah, I didn't really like the way it looked either. I didn't understand how are you gonna put a PTO on an automated system? I mean, I can understand if as long as it's not engaging too and damaging, but I feel like it would damage. I appreciate everyone that's joined us this evening. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this broadcast up. If you were able to pull some information from this live, I feel like we got this. We were successful on this. Thank you for all your comments and thank you for all your questions. I hope what we shared this evening was useful for you. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. Let me know where everyone's watching from. If you got any questions, hit us up in the comments. If you're looking for service in the DFW area, Dallas area, we are located off of Interstate 20 off of 472. Go south on 472 Bonneview Road, and then go west on Langdon Road. We're behind Premier Truck Group. We're just south of Premier Truck Group. We're just south of the TA and that new QT. You're right. My bad, Umberto. I thought you were talking about the PTO. That was an E10 with the XY shifter on top. I apologize, Umberto. I would thought you were talking about the PTO, the top of the PTO, which I shared earlier. But you are correct. That was an XY shifter, and that is an E10 Ultra shift. And you're right about that comment. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate everyone that's tuned in this evening. And you guys stay safe out there. And I will